What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers made the change to move Austin Reaves to the starting lineup. And at the time, it made a world of sense. Malik Beasley just didn't have it. He wasn't playing very well. Austin Reaves was just blossoming into this incredible talent and player and really kind of just hitting his stride. The Lakers didn't have LeBron James. And so Austin Reaves' move from the bench to the starting lineup really did make sense, and it really added a lot of value. And then LeBron James came back and they kept the same starters in. And for that first game or so, they were plus like 30 and a half with those starters, which was like, wow, right? Like you can never change those starters. Keep those starters. And since that, it's really tapered off. But the problem is the bench unit went from putting up 60 a game to 15 to 20 a game. Now, the Lakers bench is averaging just under 40 points per game. They're averaging 39.7 points per game. That was a lot better not too long ago until Reeves ended up getting thrusted into the starting lineup. And look, Austin Reaves undoubtedly deserves to be in the starting lineup. But we are now in the point of the playoffs. And the question is, should the Lakers keep the same starting lineup or should they change it up? Now, in the playoffs, you're going to run 7, 8, 9 guys at the most. Very, very rarely do teams run 10 plus guys in the playoffs. Usually if you're doing that, something's wrong. Realistically, you're gonna ride your main core guys as much as possible, and then sprinkle in the reserves. And the Lakers, with their depth and their talent, have plenty of that. And the Lakers should definitely be a team where, okay, you got it tonight, great. You don't, fine. Kind of like what we saw in the Minnesota Timberwolves game, right? You had D'Angelo Russell who just didn't have it. Dennis Schroeder did. So you made that swap. Lakers came back. They won the game. Austin Reaves didn't really have it. Jared Vanderbilt was solid. All of a sudden, you see Rui come in. Rui playing solid defense, hitting some shots. So I have no problems with there being this, like, here you go. You got it tonight. You got the hot hand. It's your turn. But I still think Austin Reaves should come off the bench. I really love Reeves in that gap role, that bridge between the starters and the bench. And you're going to run your 5 main guys as much as possible. Who are your 5 best players? Those are the 5 you're playing 90% of the game. I get that and I understand that. And these 5 guys are arguably the best 5, right? You can make an argument for Vanderbilt, for like Rui, and again, some nights Austin doesn't have it. Okay, put Schroeder in. D'Lo doesn't have it. Put Schroeder in. That's kind of your core guys. If Beasley's hot that night, put Beasley in. But to start the game, since Austin has moved to the starting unit, it hasn't changed the way we've performed starting games. The idea was, okay, great. You have Reeves who can shoot well, shoot off the ball, can create his own shot, play some defense. He can help kind of bolster those slow starts that we were having with the previous starting 5. And it hasn't changed. We're still starting very slow. We're still having to climb our way into it. So 2 things have happened. 1 negative and 1 neutral. The 1 negative is the bench has greatly been affected. The 1 neutral is the starters haven't really changed at all. Nothing has really changed with the starting unit as far as getting out to better starts, building leads, things like that, right? So if one thing has gotten drastically worse and it didn't really greatly impact the other thing, change it back and get back into the swing of things. I really think they should go with Beasley in the starting lineup. That, or if you want to go Dennis Schroeder and have D'Lo play the 2. I don't really like that personally, but in the Grizzlies matchup, that might make a lot of sense. Because then you could have Schroeder starting from the jump on Ja Morant and kind of just pester him, try to wear them down over a 7-game series. I don't really mind that. But I just think if you're ever going to utilize Beasley, who he has shot much better lately, you start him. You go with this starting five, which was the starting five we had when we made the trade. And you try to work it out. You keep guys on a short leash. If it isn't working, you bring them in. Reeves can be the first. Reeves and Schroeder can immediately sub in for D'Lo and Beasley. And then there you go. You just run that unit. And then towards the end, whoever has it gets the close. If D'Lo has it that night and Schroeder doesn't, then D'Lo, you're in. Vice versa. Like I said, I just think that that's the approach the Lakers should look at. Or if you really want to run a tight ship and you want to go, like I said, 7-8 deep, then start Schroeder. Go Schroeder, go D'Lo, go Vando, go LeBron, go AD. I don't think you'll get the shooting that you would with a Beasley or a Reeves. Reeves and Beasley have just been better shooters than Schroeder this year, although Schroeder has had some really nice games shooting the 3 ball. The Minnesota game, for example, was 3 of 4 from 3. But I think it's more of like matchup-wise, right? You're going against Memphis Grizzlies. Put Schroeder on Ja. You also have Vando, who can, if he needs to, be in that spot. And there you go. You kind of run it like that. Let D'Lo play off the ball. You keep your 2 ball handlers. You got your LeBron, AD, and Vando. LeBron also is a ball handler, but he can play off the ball. You keep him in his hands. You run some slashing motions. Do all kinds of stuff, right? You could really do a lot with that. And then have Austin Reaves come off the bench to kind of bolster that bench. And you let Reeves run with the other units. And you let Reeves kind of play in that playmaking role. Again, I like Beasley because then you always have 2 ball handlers on the court at all times. And yes, you're going to play LeBron a lot heavier. You're going to play D'Lo a lot heavier. But even in their 10-minute gaps throughout the game, not saying all at once, but, sprinkled throughout the game, you'd have at least Schroeder and Reeves, D'Lo and LeBron. And have shooters next to them, have AD, have whatever. I think that that's the approach that they should go, especially for this Grizzlies game. And you can change it per matchup, right? Like if you're playing the Warriors, right? You can maybe don't run Schroeder, or maybe you do still stick with Schroeder because Schroeder and D'Lo were killing them. So maybe you do keep that, right? So let's say you do start Beasley for the Grizzlies game, and the next matchup is the Warriors. You could alter and put Schroeder in the starting lineup instead of Beasley because D'Lo and Schroeder were torching the Warriors the 2 times we played them. So that is something that could work out, and you could just kind of shift based on the matchups. Keep your core guys. In my opinion, look, LeBron James and Anthony Davis starts, and then piece in whoever you want. You can change everything else based on matchups, right? So say you got a favorable matchup, you start Rui. You start Rui, Vando, there you go, right? Whatever. But these 2 guys are obviously going to be your starters. Outside of that, you can kind of just piece together whatever you need to based on the matchups. But you want some stability, right? You don't want to just have a different starting lineup every game. You want chemistry. You want stability. And I just think if you go back to the original starters, which was Beasley in the starting lineup, as opposed to Reeves, you balance everything out again. You have Rui, Reeves, and Schroeder as like your 3 guys immediately off the bench. And then Winion, Tristan, Mo, depending on the matchup, right? If you're playing you can make an argument every matchup you could play Winion or Thompson. But whatever. My point is you have your 8 guys essentially. You have LeBron, you have your starting 5 right now of D'Lo, Reeves, Vando, LeBron, AD. Then you have Schroeder, you have Rui, and you have Beasley. Those are kind of like the 8 core guys that it seems like is going to be is going to make up the rotation. And then your 9th guy can kind of be your interchangeable guy. Like if it's a small matchup and you can have Rui play the 5, like we saw in the Timberwolves game, right? You could have Rui run the 5. Okay, cool. Let's get, let's try Lonnie Walker tonight. Let's try, Max Christie tonight. Let's try whatever. You could piece some other guys together. Let's try Winion and Mo together, right? You can play with things as like your ninth guy if you want to. But I think outside of LeBron and AD, I think everyone else is interchangeable based on the matchups. And then you just ride whoever has the hot hand. But you do need stability in the starting lineup. And I think with Beasley in the starting lineup or Schroeder, I think you can go either way. But me personally, I would go Beasley. Go Beasley in the starting lineup. I think Beasley feasts, and I don't think it's a coincidence that since LeBron came back, Beasley's starting to shoot better. I really don't think that that's a coincidence. I don't think it's also a coincidence that Beasley's best stretch was when LeBron was back last time. So I think if he's ever going to play well for you, it's going to be with in that starting lineup with D'Lo and LeBron. So you have him there, you give him best shot. Very short leash. Very short leash. I'm not saying if he goes 0-2, you yank him, but if he starts stumbling all over himself, turning the ball over, we've seen him be a mess. If that happens, you take him out immediately. But if he goes 0-2, stick with him. Play him until you're the mark in which you usually do your subs. Okay. And if he still doesn't have it, then he doesn't need to be back in the game. If he's 0-5, 0-4 or whatever, then yeah. But Beasley's a guy that you'll see him miss the first 2, and then he'll make the next 5. So, tight leash, but you got to give him an opportunity to get in a rhythm. That way you have now Reeves and you have Schroeder, and then you can close it out if you need to. You close it out however you have to. Close it out with Schroeder and Reeves or D'Lo, LeBron, AD, Vando. There you go. I think you need to make the adjustment for the playoffs, right? There is an argument, keep it intact. Absolutely. There is. Keep the starting 5 intact because they're building chemistry and allow them to keep doing that. I just think everything will be more balanced if we have Reeves coming off the bench. I think with Reeves, Schroeder, and Rui, you get a completely different look than the starting unit. You get that slasher, fast-paced guard. You get that slow, methodical, just high IQ type guard, or just playmaker in general. And you get that bully ball, brute, mid-range bucket in Rui. I think that's just such a nice change of pace that not many teams can play with, right? Like you can bring all 3 of them in and you're off to the races, but you don't really lose anything. You're adding different elements that teams have to adjust to now. And we've seen teams have difficulty. We've seen teams have difficulty with Rui, Schroeder, and Reeves. So if you can have that sort of unit come in and they take over, I just think that just adds so much more value. Your bench is going to continue to get better and get back to that what it was. I don't think it's a coincidence that Austin Reaves leaves the starting unit or leaves the bench for the starting unit, and all of a sudden our bench production just drops off of a cliff. I don't. I think you absolutely, I mean, you could even go Brown if you want to, whatever. I just think you need to move I think you need to move Reeves to the bench. I do. And and that's the question. I mean, we're approaching the game. We're approaching the first round of the playoffs, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it. And I know we've kind of had back and forth, and we've talked about changing the starters or bringing Reeves off the bench, and we've had these types of conversations before. But now we're at the playoffs, right? And playoffs is different beast, different season, different everything. And I just think based on what we've seen, I think you change the starters. Now maybe Darvin Ham leaves it for the first game, kind of sees like how does it look. But if I just think Schroeder's your best match up against Ja. He can match speed. He can, Ja's not so big and physically dominant that Schroeder's going to get super bullied. And you can just wear him down. And you can throw different looks at him. You can throw Schroeder, you can throw Troy Brown, you can throw Shaq, you can throw Vando, throw all these guys. LeBron can even guard him at times. It's over a 7-game series. You really got to wear him down. That's the goal. Wear him down. So anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think yes? Move Reeves to the bench unit? Change the starters? Would you start Rui? Would you start Vando? Would you? Let me know. What is your starting five? I would love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below.